Good evening and welcome to the Madison DX Club's presentation for May 2026. And we have a very timely program. And I'm going to ask Bob Urban, W9EWZ, to introduce our speaker. And I would ask everyone else to mute their microphones, please.
So our speaker tonight is Bob Ronk, W9AP. Bob's the president of the Northeastern Wisconsin Amateur Radio Club, but he's been hanging out with us for the past few months. Not sure exactly what's going on there, Bob, but you're always welcome. He was kind enough to give us a program earlier in the year, just before he left for Bouvet. And now he's back to give us the, I don't know, should I say the post-mortem? No, that's not good. He's going to give us a review of what it was like, what his experience was going there and operate on Bouvet. And also, he's going to tell us a little bit about what's coming up next February. That'll be many of the same group going to Peter One Island, which is, I think, number 7 on the most wanted list for North America. So I'm looking forward to that. Also, I noticed something, Bob, today, that the QSL card came out for Bouvet for 3Y0K. It's a beautiful card, a great shot of a helicopter coming in to landing on the ice ship, and with the island of Bouvet in the background. So that's a really nice card. Anyway, Bob, it's great to have you back here, and I'm eager to hear what it was like to be on Bouvet. Please go ahead whenever you're ready.
All righty. Let me get my PowerPoint up. In case you're wondering, the background behind me is not Bouvet. There we go. Thanks for that introduction. I've been a DXer the entire time that I've been licensed, which is since 1979. And my passions are DXing and building, maintaining, experimenting with towers and antennas. I tend to get fairly passionate about Bouvet. I planned on it being the trip of a lifetime, and it exceeded my expectations. Before I get going, I also tend to, because I'm passionate, I tend to go a little long from time to time. So just a time check. How much time would you like me to spend? And I'll try to speak to that.
As long as we get out by morning.
Okay. Well, then I'll give you both barrels. So 3Y0K, Bouvet, long in the planning and great in the execution, at least as far as I'm concerned. I've entitled this presentation Breaking the Curse, and I'll talk a little bit about that in the next slide. But my sense is that we really kicked butt, and boy, did we have a great time.
So for his last couple of weeks, very consistent.
Okay. There we go. A little bit of history and, against the title. And I won't read every line of this, but it kind of illustrates the curse that I'm talking about. The island was discovered by a French sea captain named Bouvet in 1739. And he was a really piss poor navigator as he wasn't able to chart the island, and the island got lost and ultimately was rediscovered in 1808 and claimed by Britain in 1825 and subsequently claimed by Norway in 1930 and made a nature preserve in 1971. The Norwegian Polar Institute is the regulatory body as far as landing permits, and thankfully Ken, LA7GIA, has an excellent working relationship with them. It didn't count as a W9DX or a DXCC kind of country in 47 after World War II. It took until 63 to get that recognition. And truth be known, it's one of those entities that today would not qualify by the rules and regulations. Each one of the bullet points further on down talks about a successful activation or maybe a not so successful one. And in summary, I can tell you that there were about 70,000 QSOs made from Bouvet prior to 3 Yankee 0 Kilo. And we did about 102,000 and as I said, had just a fantastic time. So the DXpedition began to be planned in 2023 when 3 Yankee 0 Lima went there, and the conditions were such that they were not able to land on the island by boat safely. And thanks to their guide, Arctic guide, Peter Madej, he took a Zodiac out, dropped a anchor and a buoy, and tied a messenger line from that to shore. And the team ultimately chose 6 guys to go on shore, and couldn't stay as long as they would have liked, and stayed under some pretty tough conditions with only a couple radios, no amplifiers, and 1 generator. I entered the team in 2024 in October, and waited impatiently until 2025 when we started planning in earnest. And ultimately, we held 3 workshops in Oslo. The 2 photos on the left are from the first workshop, and you see one of the canvas tents that we used, and we collectively practiced erecting those, and it was a darn good thing. We had 6 of them, and of the 6, 5 had issues, either missing parts or broken parts and so forth. So we had plenty of time to get those replaced and repaired. The bottom left-hand corner was lunch on Friday. There's 4 fellows there. 3 of the 3 on the left-hand side ended up not making the trip due either to the delays that we experienced or some health issues. And the fellow on the right, Goodme, was with us. The lunch was part of the testing of equipment, and we were testing the alcohol or gas stove that we had to see how quickly it could heat water to near boiling. We needed to take either a liter to 2 liters of water up to that temperature so that we would have enough to make some of the finest MREs on the face of the earth. And again, a good thing that we did that because the gas stove was woefully slow. And ultimately, we replaced it with an induction heated coffee pot that was really, really fast. The upper right-hand corner was the second workshop in late August over Labor Day weekend, and it was the final second to final workshop, but our primary purpose was to inventory, test, and pack all of the equipment that we were going to take. And the bottom right-hand corner, you can see a number of the team that attended the third workshop the middle of September. I was not able to go to that one because that was W9DXCC weekend. A couple of noteworthy items. You see all those blue barrels, and those blue barrels got used for damn near everything. Equipment, food, and so forth, as well as waste. The generators were all crated, and then ultimately we constructed a frame for the crates because we brought 8 generators, I believe, of the Honda 3000s, 3 of their 2,000-watt generators, but we put about 4 or 5 tons of gear on top of the generators, so we needed to be able to make sure that they made it through. The yellow bag in the lower right-hand corner is one of 2, and that contained all of our coax. The team that ultimately left, smaller than we had planned on, but it was a team of 14. The 4 guys across the top were the leadership team, Ken, Adrian, Cesar, and Dennis. Little background on the balance of the team. Donato from Italy spent his life in the financial investment and insurance business. Vadim from the Ukraine is an owner of Kenwood Consumer Electronics Distribution Company, and you can imagine how well he's doing today with the war that's going on there. Gudmi from Iceland is an accountant. Lassi from Hungary is a college professor, teaches microbiology for agricultural usage. Alex is from Germany, but the last year was spent in Antarctica volunteering at a research base. Stien lives in the northern reaches of Norway and is a network engineer. James lives in Montana and still working as in software development for a company called Salesforce. Reggie is from the Faroes and professionally is a ship captain, romantic, and Max works for the league. And to give you an idea of the range here, age-wise, Max is 22, Cesar is 72, so we spanned 50 years. Our support team, Sean and Neil are brothers. Neil is a U.S. Forest Service ranger. Sean is an emergency room doctor, thus trained as a surgeon. Julia was a doctor, second doctor for us, and she is along because of Alex from the previous slide. And Julia might look, nice, cute, and wholesome. I got to tell you, she's one tough gal. She needed a root canal while she was in Antarctica, and with the help of their cook, she performed it on herself. Peter and Berger were our search and rescue team, both experienced ice climbers and Arctic guides. And boy, we couldn't have done it without them. Their help in getting the tents set up and the camp well organized was priceless. So on the 21st of February, remember that we had planned to sail on the 1st, but some of the delays in ship refitting in the Canaries and some delays in port in Cape Town cost us 3 weeks. So we were well past the shank of the Southern Hemisphere summer. We say it lasted 28 days. The sailing was about a week each way. And when we got there, the weather was not real satisfactory. In fact, we made a decision on the way down to slightly alter our course because of the rough seas and the winds, and the helicopter people were concerned that the helicopter was getting pounded on the deck, and they were afraid that the tail section might suffer some metal fatigue. When we saw what the weather was, it was a no-brainer. We just sailed a little bit less wind, broadside, and so forth. And then we were there for about a day plus when we got off the island. 14 days on shore total, and then the return to Cape Town. You can see the course that we took, about 1,500 nautical miles. Lots of preparation even once we got there. The photo on the far left shows the helicopter that is nicknamed the Squirrel. It's a single engine turbo made by Airbus. Fellow standing in front of it is Dennis, KT8 X-ray, and he and I have become good friends over the last couple of years. The net that the helicopter is sitting on almost sunk the DXpedition. It arrived a little late, and without that net, the helicopter could not have made the trip nor flown because of the wet deck and the concerns about security. The middle couple of photos show those notorious blue barrels again. On the left-hand side, the black barrels closest to you are the overflow jet A1 fuel, and also 16 drums of gasoline for our generators. The blue drums behind that are just peeking up are the equipment and food. And the third photo is also smaller drums, about 35-gallon drums, and those were primarily for equipment. The far right photo shows the emergency response Zodiac, and that tarp covering a crate contained the helicopter blades, because the blades had to come off before we sailed due to anticipated heavy seas. My responsibilities with the team centered around logistics. I was the load master for planning and getting the equipment and operators on shore coordinating that. And as such, the ship arrived on Monday. Tuesday, a small team came up to the wharf and inspected the vessel a final time. You can see the container placement in the front, and that was where we had planned to put it originally. However, we also had hoped to be able to fly loads off of the foredeck. But the pilots saw the rather large superstructure for the crane on the foredeck and said, geez, we're concerned that the sling and net loads might get caught up in that. And the one thing that we've learned, or we did learn all the way through, was was an extremely complex DXpedition, and there was a lot of adapt and overcome. None of us ever fell in love with our own plan very much. You can see a shot of the blue drums from the other direction, and then that tanker is pumping Jet A1 fuel into a 7,000 liter tank that's aft that was used for primary helicopter refueling. So once we learned that we couldn't fly off the foredeck, a load off the foredeck rather, we made a decision to would need from the container, set them all on shore, moved them to the back of the ship, and then loaded them again. Because as you see the cabin there are no passageways on the exterior. The foredeck is two levels below the helipad, and we weren't crazy about having to haul everything, literally tons of equipment, through narrow passageways and up a couple of flights of steps. This is a shot that was taken by Paul's ZS1 Alpha the evening that we were going to depart. He has a couple of buddies, and they took out one of their yachts and cruised past us and took some beautiful shots of us in front of Table Mountain there. The upper right-hand photo gives you a sense of what cabin was like on the ship. This one was configured for two people. I was fortunate enough to have a single bunk cabin, but they're the same size. And if I reached out my arms, I could put one hand on one wall and one hand on the other. They're about 12 feet deep or thereabouts. This shot was taken from out in the hallway. And the previous presentation, I was asked, how wide are those bunks? Those look pretty small. And yes, I can tell you with great confidence, those bunks are about 6. The bottom right-hand corner, photo rather, gives you a shot of the bridge. And that was a great place to go once we were underway, to have a better view and to watch the radar. We got out to sea. We sailed Saturday night, actually Sunday morning at 3 o'clock in the morning. And these were some of the first sights that we saw once we got south of Africa. The iceberg in the middle photo, we estimated to be about the size of four coach buses long. Of course, we couldn't tell how deep or wide it was because we were not close enough to get any kind of perspective. The right-hand shot gives you a look at Dennis, and we all practiced getting into the environmental suits, also known as Gumby suits. We were supposed to be able to do it in 2 minutes. I don't think anybody, at least on our team, broke 5. But those were there primarily in case we had to abandon ship, and we hoped that we would not have to use those once we got to the island. So everybody, has a different look at sailing. I'm not a sailor, but I did enjoy the trip. The video here on the left is what we all had hoped for. Unfortunately, those conditions probably lasted all of about 4 hours. Especially on the trip down was very rugged. So the trip down was mostly like that. And we're in swells here that are 12 to 15 feet. The ship Argus is an icebreaker, and as such has a completely round hull configuration so that it can break the ice once it lurches up onto it. And if you noticed, it kind of wallowed through the water, even though we were moving along at pretty decent speed, anywhere in the 10 to 13 knot range. And that's because it rose up, heeled one way coming up, and then after we crested the waves and came down, it would heel the other way. This is what the arrival in Bouvet looked like. Seas were calmer. You can see the island in the distance, and this was reasonable weather, but got worse, and we were unable to launch immediately, which we had hoped to be able to do, and hung out for a day prior to launching. Whoops. The first thing on the 28th of February was to get on shore with our recon team. The 3 guys in the helicopter, that's Dennis at the very back, Ken in the middle, and Peter. And they were as packed in the back seat of that helicopter as it appears, because the plan was they were going to fly around the island, confirm where we were going to land, and ultimately where we were going to set up camp. And then they were offloaded and started the camp setup. We were able to make one more flight that day and put 4 more guys on the island. The upper photo there shows what it looks like coming into the island from the ship, and notice the waves breaking on the beach and the height of the cliff there, and that white blob is the glacier. The original plan was to set up a lower camp and an upper camp, and the lower camp was going to be where 3Y0 Lima set up last time, but that area was overrun, and that's what the lower photo shows, and that site was overrun by seals and penguins. So ultimately, we set up in the area that we thought was going to be the upper camp. In fact, we were higher up the terrain than we expected to be able to be. The right-hand photo shows a nearly level spot, and that was the original landing zone. The left-hand photo will give you an idea of the of what the terrain looks like there, and you'll see some more shots of that as we go along. It's a volcanic island, 19 and a half square miles. 93.5% of it is covered by a glacier, and we're on the largest strip that is not glaciated. And the camp evolved a little bit over time. The first 3 tents were set up by the 7 people that I spoke about. They did not have the verticals that you see there to be able to operate. And I'll talk a little bit more about that shortly. And then 3 became 5, became 7 tents, and you can see the progress with the additional verticals and the Yagis. We're looking roughly southeast in the photos here. And I like the shot on the left-hand side because it really brings some perspective to the area that we set up camp in. The area that I call the LZ is off screen to the right. There's some fairly high hills, and then of course the glacier on the other side. Once we got the vertical antennas up, the area just off frame to the right is where we ended up flying in and out with the sling loads, and that those became our fuel dump and so forth. You get a good sense of what the island is. It's nothing but rock. There is no soil. There's no structure to the ground there. The rock is as small as a dime or smaller, and as big as a Volkswagen. So as such, you can't pound any stakes into it per se to be able to guy the verticals or the crank up masts that we used. So here you see one of the team working with a hammer drill, drilling into the rock, and the rock isn't particularly hard. It's volcanic, kind of like sandstone. So thankfully, the drill cut into it very, very well. Once we drilled a hole, we had anchors that looked a lot like pitons that you may have seen if you watched any movies on mountaineering, made out of rebar, and we would pound those into the holes and use those for guys. The Yagis were up on crank up masts. You see one of them in the lower left, about 6 inches square at the base, 4 sections, and would probably get up to just under 40 feet. We did not put them up that high for fear of instability and having to fix stuff. And here you can see in the lower right-hand corner one of the duo band Yagis going up. I think that's 12 and 17. So the first contacts happened the first night on the island, and We sent them ashore with the second team ashore with a radio and a computer and power supply and some generators, some fuel. They set up in the meet and greet tent, and that's Cesar VE3LYC running CW on 40 meters. The dipoles that we sent along were what we had planned to use right away, and then later continue to use them. We didn't send the big coax bag, which was a problem because all of the dipoles only had jumpers on them. So, but one of the guys was fairly ingenious and said, "Oh, we got barrel connectors." So he plugged the jumpers together with the PL258s, and the 40-meter beam was strung up about 10 feet off the ground. I could have put in an audio clip of what the pileup sounded like. You all have heard them before. The pileups down there are the worst I've ever heard. Wall to wall signals in the 20 over range. Asia and Africa and Europe just pounded in. This was pile up on 10 meters that I ran fairly early on. And I'm being received here in the Faroes at the club station, W9FR, I believe was their call sign. Just as I clicked it off, you heard me calling for North America. I tried to run North America for all of the shift that day and was reasonably successful. I think I got a nice 4-hour run or so. The photo on the right is a shot into the operating tent. There were 5 operating positions, each set up with a 7610 and a laptop and one of the ACOM amplifiers. We had 3 models of the amplifiers, a 500 watt model, a 1.2, and a full 2 kilowatt model. And that one spent most of its time on the 160 and 80 meter station, trying to be as loud as we could be there. Oops. This will give you an idea of, again, of the terrain that's there. And the footing was not particularly solid. Sometimes you'd climb one of these hills and you could stand upright. Other times, and you'll see that, I think, in the next slide or thereabouts, other times you'd be climbing up and all of a sudden everything underneath your feet would just slide away. And we put antennas up on this ridge, so you can see we were trying to get as close to the ocean as possible. You know, you never knew what the weather was going to be like in the morning when you woke up. Some mornings it would look like this, and the winds there were probably in the 45 mile an hour range or so. Other mornings, you'd wake up and it would look like this. But you can see typically very gray. Temperatures weren't bad in the 30s during the day. In nights, it would drop into the middle 20s, but the wind was just killer. We had precipitation every day, and I think we had every form of precipitation that you might imagine. Another shot reinforcing what I said before. You can see this guy is crabbing his way up that ridge. This is heading over to the area where I said we landed gear and we set up our fuel dump. So we were able to put 3 drums of gasoline in that LZ area, but we wanted to save that for as long as we could in case we had really, really, really bad weather and couldn't make it to the fuel drums. And typically we would do a fuel run once a day, 4 guys, 8 5-gallon plastic jugs of fuel. Each guy carried 2, and that was a bear getting over the hills and so forth. On the worst weather day, you can see the aftermath here in the upper right-hand corner. The next morning, that was our 20-meter monobander, and the winds that night approached 75 miles an hour. It got more or less nice looking during the day. We took the crank up mast off of the antenna, repaired the damage that you see there. There were a couple of bent elements, and later, after the repair work was done, we had hoped to be able to get that back up, but the winds picked back up that day and got up into the 80 to 85 mile an hour range, and there was absolutely no way that we were getting that antenna back up. This is Donato operating QO100 satellite, the one that covers Europe and Africa and a bit of Asia from the meet and greet tent. And it was early on. You can see the dish on the right-hand edge, and we cheated and kept the dish inside the tent initially, and then moved it out afterwards. We didn't always have this many people in the meet and greet tent. This was the last day, and we had been taking things down, but you can see the QO100 and Flex Aurora stations on the right-hand side. That white table at the back with a telltale blue drum underneath it was the kitchen where we boiled the water and made our MREs. Here, I think we probably had eight people or so in the tent, but most times when you went in there, you'd find maybe 2 other people at most. Our shifts were 6-hour shifts on a rotating basis, 6 hours on, 12 hours off. And that sounds pretty deluxe. However, one of those 6-hour shifts that you were off was spent with your camp duties, whether that was fuel or sanitary and so forth. I was in charge of the generators, so I did a lot of monitoring of the fuel during my off times, so that I could map the fuel consumption, and we could tell if we could run QRO most of the time. We had thought we were probably going to run more 500-watt power levels, but we had plenty of fuel and were able to run all of the amplifiers pretty much full bore. The other duty that you had in your 12 hours off was inspecting, troubleshooting, and fixing anything that didn't work. So a lot of time was spent with an antenna analyzer. This one obviously is out there trying to test some stuff on the receiving antenna. and also on the 160 vertical. So at the end of 2 weeks, we were done. 102,000 contacts in the log. You see all the operators and support team gathered with Bouvet in the background. Each country represented had a flag there, and all we were saying to the photographer was, hurry the heck up and take that photo, because the winds were about 40 miles an hour that day. Temperature was a balmy 38, I believe. Humidity that day was about 95%, which was typical, and we just wanted to get back inside. You see the helicopter crew in the right-hand side. That's Stefan on the left, Johan, the engineer mechanic in the center, and Josh on the far right-hand side. And we cautioned them to hold that South African flag over their midsection, because those guys have gonads the size of basketballs. It was time for a celebration, and I always forget to mention one of the highlights while we were on the island. We didn't have resupply flights every day, but usually every 2 to 4 days or thereabouts. We were in communication with the ship via VHF radio, and we had Peter, the lead guide, staying on the ship in case an emergency evacuation was necessary. And we were joking with the ship crew and so forth, saying, it'd be really nice to have some pizza, because the MREs, while we had 6 different flavors of entrees, a couple of different breakfast cereals, and a couple of different soups, they did get a little old. So our cook, the fellow in the green apron, heard some of that, and lo and behold, he made about 8 or 10 pizzas, sliced them up, wrapped them in foil, and got them to the pilots just before they were ready to take off. And one day at lunchtime, we got to have pizza. If you heard my presentation prior to our going, we talked a little bit about having a couple of private citizens, non-hams, that came along. The fellow in the upper left-hand corner, Martin, is from Norway, and he kindly brought along 3 of those large bottles of Bouvet champagne from France. A real premium champagne, and you can see in the lower left and upper right-hand photos, the guys gathered around, enjoying some champagne and some beer, talking smart, and so forth. The fellow in the white T-shirt was the number 2 cook, and he knew about the pizza run, and decided that he wanted to honor us during our celebration. So he made what he called donuts, and that's what's on that platter. I would say that those were kind of cake donut-ish, about the size of a hoagie roll, frosted in chocolate. And yes, that's a frosting dispenser in his right hand that had whipped cream in it. And he jammed that into each one of those and just pumped them full of cream. And I gotta say, the donuts and the champagne tasted damn good together. So it was time to get back at sea, and the conditions that you see here on the trip back were fairly constant, and much smoother. The trip down, about half of the operator crew ended up getting seasick. the trip back, nobody got seasick. So that was great. A shot of the Argus cruising into the harbor. We arrived Saturday morning at about 9:30 or so, and pulled up next to the dock. Remember, I said initially we offloaded everything onto the dock and carried it back and then carried it up. We were highly motivated to get off that ship, and we had to, before we could go, we had to have everything packed back into the container. And this time we did carry everything through the cabin, down 2 flights of stairs, and out to the container. And Reggie and one of the other fellas were our Tetris experts that helped us cube out the container very well. We were done filling the container and sealing it up by about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and checked into the hotel that we had stayed in previously. Saturday night was another night of celebration. There was a mall area within walking distance of the hotel. The area that we were in Cape Town was fairly safe, although the closer you got to the harbor, the less safe it got. And there was a building about the size of the UW Fieldhouse, maybe a little bit bigger than that, that had varietal restaurants. So everybody could go to their favorite food and pick the meal for the night. And that was really the first real food that we had. Although the food on the ship was pretty decent, and a few beers were consumed as well. So in closing, the corporate partners that made the trip possible, Ice Tugs, certainly the ship owner, Ultimate Aviation, we would not have been able to be as successful as we were if we wouldn't have had a helicopter that was very functional. We throughout the sail down and the trip, we were in dialogue with the pilots. They really became uncounted members of the team, and their counsel was that they would rather fly more trips that would had lighter loads, and our desire was for them to fly fewer trips with heavier loads. Under absolutely ideal conditions, that helicopter could lift about 1,400 kilos, but in the conditions that we were in, 800 kilos was the safe working load, and most of our loads went out between 600 and 750 kilos. Myhausen was the ship's agent. For those of you that haven't had experience with seagoing vessels, ships contract with an agent in every port, and because of customs and so forth, nothing can be purchased by any of the passengers on the ship or by the ship crew itself. It all has to go through the ship's agent. But they were much more than that. They were able to cut through some customs red tape and some harbor issues. Without them, we probably wouldn't have had an opportunity to sail nearly on time. Our DXpedition sponsors, Unified Microsystems, Gary, we appreciate the receive antennas that you provided. DX Engineering, Flex, ICOM, and others. Couldn't have done it obviously without them. Spider Beam was the supplier of all of our fiberglass poles. Bernie Daily DX gave us some support. Arctic Lavo was the tent company for the canvas tents, and Barents for two small nylon pup type tents that the two private individuals slept in, as well as one of the doctors. And of course, special thanks to our major donors, NCDXF, Indexa, and the European group. Heck of a trip. So before I take Q&A, Bob asked me to talk a little bit about Peter 1. The sea container is soon to land in the U.S., and it will go to Mike Kronover, AD5A's QTH in Texas, and the fun will begin. It'll have to be opened up. Some of the equipment that was provided will go back to the various owners. Antennas will be refurbished. Coax will be retested and so forth, and they will go through the same process that we went through for Bouvet in terms of workshops to get that work done, and that'll start probably in late June or July. They have a solid four-man leadership team in place with Ken, Adrian, Cesar, and Mike. The operator positions are probably between a third and a half filled. So if any of you have a burning yearning to go to Peter 1 in an Arctic DXpedition, it will be colder. The winds and the weather won't be quite as bad, but it's going to snow pretty much every day. The plans with the ship and the helicopter companies are being finalized as we speak. And the point of departure is going to likely be in down towards the tip of South America. Fundraising is underway. The budget will break the Bouvet budget, which was $1.75 million. Peter 1 will be we'll start with a 2, and I think it will be probably close to mid 2s. So that's about all I can say at this point about Peter 1. And I would ask that you not get frustrated that all of the details aren't out. One of the things that surprised me was the more information that went out, the more sniping the DX team had to endure. So with that, questions, what can I answer?
Bob, Ed Schumacher. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Ed.
Oh, okay. I probably could have just looked at one of the maps, but that far south, that time of year, what was your daylight to dark time ratio? And did you have sufficient dark time to the areas you wanted to work the low bands?
Yes, to the latter question. The daylight darkness was on the backside of summer. I mean, it would be analogous to what we experience here in the Midwest in probably September or thereabouts. And propagation, as I said, to throughout was pretty reasonable. We were about as high up on the island as we could be, which was a concern so that we could work more North America. Stat-wise, I can tell you that while we're happy about over 100,000 contacts, we would like the percentage of North American contacts to have been stronger. I think we finished around 18 to 19%, and we had hoped to get that into the upper 20s. And mode wise, FT8 was by far and away the largest number of queues at a little over 50%. But because of propagation and the pileups, the human modes from a rate perspective were tough. In good conditions, we were cruising along at 150 to 200, but in good conditions on FT8, our rate was running 500 to 600.
Other questions for Bob?
Yeah, I have one. What would you do different that on this with the Peter one coming up? What did you learn from this one to carry forward to Peter one to do different?
That's a great question. And nothing substantial. But I think we would have maybe gotten a little bit more rigor into the team as far as camp duties. There's a lot of stuff to go on when you're living in those conditions, and not everybody was as thrilled about latrine duty as some of us. But that's typical of a group. I would say that the team, the key elements of success were the quality of the team, and the fact that the 14 operators that went all got along. I witnessed no amplified voices, and when there was a disagreement about anything, we were able to work things out. The helicopter, as I said before, was a godsend. And Peter 1 will have two. The landing permits for that far south require that you have a helicopter and a backup. And I would like to have seen us have better quality weather information. We had four or five different weather forecasting sources, some on the ship, some that the guides were using. And I would say that the weather rock was, at the end of the day, the most reliable weather forecasting tool we had. If it was wet, it was raining. If it was dry and bright, it was sunny. And that became important because weather was everything. The equipment that we had in terms of support masts and antennas and so forth was really, really top notch. But I'll say this, amateur gear, as well as it's designed, is not meant to survive constant pounding of wind 50 to 60 to 70 miles an hour, which is what you get on Bouvet. The weather piece becomes important for a number of reasons, mostly onshoring and evacuating. We saw weather windows of 2 to 6 hours. I think I had one that was maybe two that were 4 to 6 hours, and the rest were 2 to 3. It would be great if there was a way to practice ahead of time, moving the equipment quickly into the nets. My objective in being loadmaster was we had 5 nets, and I wanted 2 of those nets full of equipment on the helipad 100% of the time. And initially, we were a little slower than I would like to have been. And it's the kiss of death if the helicopter has to wait. You don't want the helicopter to wait at all. And we got to that stage on day 2 when we loaded and stayed at that level of performance through all of the rest of the loading process, and then all of the return process.
Did the ship's crew help you with the loading or unloading at all?
Yes, they did. But ultimately, we were the ones that were familiar with the item identification and what we needed to get. The crew did help when we would get, basically once we would get the gear up to the periphery of the helipad. We had the crew on the ship was, I think, 13 men, and we had 4 or 5 helping us pretty much at all times.
I'd like to ask a question about propagation, if I might.
You may.
This is Ed. One of the things, the first thing I want to say is this: we really appreciate your time and effort that you put into this. It's fantastic. One of the things that I'd like to know about how you witness propagation down there. From up here, I found that from 20 meters on up, it was just almost a hopeless battle against Europe and Asia. But what surprised the blooming daylights out of me was I worked you on 30, 40, and 80. And what was the surprising part about it was on 80 meters, it was just like out of nowhere one night. You went from a little signal down in the noise and worked us, but all of a sudden you were really loud. And I was just wondering if you noticed any kind of like strange anomalies with propagation while you were there.
If you weren't a believer in gray line before you went, you left the island a believer. I didn't operate anything, any 160. I did operate 80 and 40. And I could, as I watched the clock display, I knew who I was going to be working in the next 10 or 15 minutes. very, very solid. The upper high bands, 10 and 12, were not great. I say fair, maybe. We felt pretty good about 15, 17, and 20. I think those bands, I'd have to go back and confirm it, but my sense is that those were the bands that we were most successful with North America.
Any other questions for Bob?
Geez, I couldn't have done that good a job.
Well, everyone's hung in there. I'll echo what Ed just said. I mean, thank you personally for all the effort that we just can't imagine that you had to put in personal effort and sacrifice in order to go on this DXpedition, and then all the work on organizing it, and finally being able to come back and share that with us. So thanks an awful lot, Bob.
Hey, you bet. And if any of you have additional questions, I'm good on QRZ. Those of you that are going to Dayton, look me up there. I'll be speaking along with Dennis. We're the kickoff for the DX forum, and I'll be at Contest U. And then Friday, I think we'll be in some of the sponsors' booths for sure. ICOM, DX Engineering, and ACOM.
I do have a question to follow up here.
Yeah, Dick.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I'm actually going to add on to Ed's query going into propagation. Oh, first of all, thank you so much for doing this for us. My gosh, I feel like this is a sneak peek before anybody knows what's the results of Bouvet. So it's helpful to have you in our state. You know what I mean?
Well, you're welcome. And pretty much what I've presented here is what we'll be doing at Dayton. We've got maybe one or two more slides in there, but this has worked well. I've probably done 10 of these so far, 8 to 10 of these, but with fairly small groups.
All right. Okay, so here's my propagation question for you. Like any of us that travel to a different location, turn on the radio, we're like, oh my gosh, propagation feels so different here compared to back in the black hole. So how did you face that when you were down there? Was it like a shock since you guys had never been down there before to experience the propagation? Did any of the forecast models really help you guys, or did you kind of have to learn it as you go?
Yes, the forecast models helped, but they weren't as valuable as experience. And there was a lot of communication from operator to operator there. Since we were operating rotating shifts, that would be probably the one thing that I would say that took some getting used to, because you would have just come off of operating, and then you get off at, I don't know, 2 o'clock in the morning, and then the next time you'd come on was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And those are radically different conditions on any of the bands. Our pilots helped some, and I will say I can't imagine doing a DXpedition like this without decent pilots around the world that could tell us objectively how we were being heard.
Okay, thank you. You look good, by the way. Your lifetime of experience with Wisconsin winters has prepared you well for being down there.
Yeah, I mean, it was temperature-wise, it was warmer there than it was here. And that huge snowstorm that swept across the north central part of the state, I just laughed because that day it was not temperate, but the wind was the biggest issue, and it I will say the other factor from the weather was, and they told me this ahead of time, and I didn't believe it until I got there. Any of the tasks that you would have to do outside took 4 times longer there than they took here. And it wasn't because it was cold per se, but the combination of temperature, wind chill, rain, and wind, and God help you if you dropped hardware, especially if it wasn't really, really big hardware, because the rock base just swallowed nuts and washers.
Well, this is Dan, yeah, K6 Papa. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine, Dan.
Hey, congratulations on a very successful expedition. I was fortunate enough to work you guys on FC8 on 4 bands, but in comparison to the previous DXpedition, you were really easy because your time on the FC8 was right on. The Lima expedition, I mean, I had to adjust my computer time to match theirs because they were always.
Yep.
How did you match your time?
Well, we had Starlink, so we were able to calibrate time on any of the stations just like you do it at home.
All right, thank you very much. It was well done. It was easy. I think there were only a couple, 3 of us that worked you from Hawaii on the Lima expedition. That was their expedition, but on yours, we had a lot of people. Thank you very much.
You bet. Yeah, and I would be remiss if I didn't comment a little bit about, at least from the personal side, said the DXpedition lasted 28 days. I was actually gone for 45 days from home. And I'm single. My youngest daughter lives upstairs with her husband, and they're 2 newborn twin girls. I love my dog, and that stuff wears on you more than you would think it was going to. And it was bizarre to be able to be operating and have my phone out and text family and friends. Yes, some of my ham friends, actually none of my ham friends plied me to help, but particularly when I was running FT8, I was able to reach out, text my ham friends whose call signs I saw, and give them some tips that would help them get in the lot. And that was another, I guess, characteristic from an operator's perspective. We were all fairly experienced operators, and we knew it was about rate, and rate. But about 4 days into it, our motivation was to try to help people where we could, and we would celebrate the guys that had more modest stations. I mean, it was easy to tell who had big antenna at 70 feet and who was on wire antennas.
All right. Again, fantastic program. I wish you and anyone else going to Dayton a safe trip, and it sounds like it'll be good programs there. So with that, I wish everyone good DXing and a good evening.
And thanks for having me. I appreciate it.